Well, um, good evening and welcome everyone to How to Use Your Website to Go Globally webinar. And I hope you'll find this useful. And if you have any questions, please feel free to ask. Um, for sake of clarity, it will be easier if we use the chat facility. I'll just write hello just to show the chat facility. And so if you have any questions at any time, please feel free to to put it through the chat. And I'll see if I can answer them at the time at the moment. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, Ashton. Yes, here.
Cool.
Yes. Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
Excellent. Well, again, welcome everyone, and I'd like to talk about tonight the relevance of going global for small to medium-sized businesses and how to go about it, and some of the myths that are involved that is so vital that small business owners and professionals need to overcome. Before I start, let me quickly introduce myself in case you weren't in the presentation in Excel. Okay, 1 second. Right, that's me. That's my Twitter address, and I'm also in LinkedIn. I'll be more than happy to connect with you guys. So if you like to connect with me, please you will be welcome, and just make a reference to the webinar, and then I'll connect with you. This is our company website that does include a lot of relevant information if anybody would like to visit. Um, I published this brochure about basically as an introduction to international trade. This is free to download from our website. Again, if you like me to send you a link, please let me know. This is another brochure that we published. It's about how to avoid common translation mistakes that enables companies to do their translations without certain hiccups. This is our experience that we gathered working with dozens of companies, if not hundreds, from many different industries. Now, the question is, why sell globally? That comes up time after time. And a lot of small to medium sized businesses do not really consider about selling globally. My company, we are a small company, and 30% of our growth comes from, 30% of our revenue comes from selling globally. And as I said, we are a typically small company, and it is so possible for any company to take that step. So hopefully, um, the points that I'll go over will give some inspirations and encourage you guys to do the same. Now, according to UKTI surveys, companies who trade globally have a higher chance of success. Actually, it's 12% more chance of success than companies who don't. It creates innovation because of the connections with other providers in other countries, customers. It actually creates innovation. Obviously, it creates growth because um, uh, okay, there's a question, but I'll just reply that recording will be available, uh, and I'll send you the link for the recording. So actually, the whole webinar is being recorded at the moment. It obviously selling globally creates growth because you sell more of the same to multiple channels, and of course, it increases efficiency because what you can't sell in the domestic market, you can sell it to other countries and vice versa. So it does definitely increase efficiency. And most critically, which was the case for my company, that when the economic circumstances aren't great in the domestic market, companies who sell globally don't have to rely on the domestic market because they are already connected with global markets, that they have existing channels going at the same time. So for us, that was a great advantage. Even during recessionary times, we managed to grow our company. Yes, single digits, but even better, better than no growth at all. Now, this is quite interesting. We come up with this time and time again. Companies go global, sell globally, but sometimes they do make bad mistakes, and this is a typical one. I thought I just mention it, so hopefully I'll be able to mention few tips that we've developed ourselves that will stop you know stop this being a kind of a pitfall. Now, in order to take that step, we need to overcome some myths. That was very much the case for me. And when I speak to other business owners, I noticed that I wasn't the only one. That seems to be um, common myths that really needs addressing. One of them is like, it is only for large companies. Well, large companies have mastered this really well. I mean, look at Tesco. Their growth, global growth, has been phenomenal, and they grow more in other countries than in the UK. Apple, Apple gets 58% of their revenue from outside United States of America, and most of this comes from non-English speaking countries. So the large companies, yes, they have mastered, but it is not only for large companies, because the e-commerce have developed so well that implementation of these are not doesn't cost much, and makes it available for small to medium-sized businesses. Well, the second one is about that people think that they have to be established before they can go global. Actually, a lot of startups go global within the first year of their existence. So you don't need to wait to be established before going global. It doesn't have to cost a fortune. If it is planned properly, it can be it can be budgeted for, and it doesn't have to cost a lot of money. And that was one of my biggest myths, that exporting is to do with big ships taking container loads and to other countries, and obviously ships that size is of monetary value that is beyond my wildest dreams. But it is not only for manufacturers. Service service providers can go global. There are We will look at some of the platforms that enable, for instance, software developers, training companies that take their products and services to global market in such a simple way. Yes, it is not very straightforward. It may be complicated, but the rewards far more advantages than the complications. And believe in me, guys, there are so much support out there. If somebody is trying to look out for assistance in taking their business global, there are a lot of support out there. Now, you might say, okay, fine, but what is the relevance of websites? Now, most companies, maybe without exception, all companies have websites. Or if they haven't got one, it is so easy to get a website with platforms such as WordPress. They enable you to create a website depending on your budget. You can do it in a day, in a week, and but it's so doable. And WordPress even lets you uh, publish the website, host the website on their own platform with a little bit of cost. So the websites are one of our main assets. And for some companies, if they have developed their websites, it's already there. So it makes very much sense to to utilize on that asset. So this you know taking international payments using our websites used to be a big deal. But now with online payment facilities, now taking a payment from the other side of the world is no big deal. Using payment facilities such as PayPal, Moneybookers, now I think they are called Skrill, and Sage WorldPay. So taking payments internationally is no big, not much different than taking payment from anyone else. E-commerce is developed in such a way that implementation of e-commerce into a website is very affordable, and that enables companies to take that global step. International delivery network. Most biggest household names such as UPS, DHL, TNT, Parcel Force, they will take our parcels to any part of the world, and sometimes we regularly send packages to, for instance, to Turkey, Germany, and Korea, and when we order the package for the delivery, they say 5 to 6 days. Often, they deliver it in within 2 days. So, international delivery network enables us to reach most parts of the world. Now, perhaps this is the most important aspect that nearly, well, actually, the latest statistics is over one third of the world population has internet access. So this is so critical because that's so critically important for us. That means almost every country potentially our customer. And companies such as Facebook and Google, they are trying very hard to get internet access to most parts of the world, and that obviously works to our advantage. Now, talking about international trade and how easy it is and the websites, well, okay, when it comes to the practical decisions, how how are we going to know that we have an international opportunity? Now, you know your products, you know your services, you're passionate about it. That's why you're in business. That's why I am in business. However, there are certain bits that can be great help to find that international opportunity. And the biggest advantage of using Google Analytics is actually to see if you have an international opportunity. Now, most people use Google Analytics, and if you're not using it, it is free product. It is so easy to install. If you can't do it, ask your someone who gives you an IT support. They will be able to do that. And with Google Analytics, you can actually see where your visitors are coming from. So, for instance, looking at this one, I can see that the biggest, the fourth biggest country is Turkey for the visitors, Spain, India, France. So it is giving me a lot of information where my customers are coming, where my visitors are coming from. That means those people are interested in my product and products and services. If this is a tangible number, then that gives you a lot of information to get started. Um, Now, going on about uh, selling globally, and I couldn't help but to show this example. This is Nintendo. They have an online dictionary game, and such an unfortunate name they come up with, and this is intended for children. Luckily, they after publishing this in releasing this in South Korea, they have been warned about this, and so they managed to turn it into touch dictionary and avoided this unfortunate uh, problem. Again, these are so easily avoidable. There are products called brand name checking, and I'll mention this at later stage. But some of the stuff are so easily avoidable, and companies such as Nintendo can fall into those traps. Then it 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 sort of gives me a lesson that small to medium sized businesses needs to be even more uh, uh, careful not to fall into those pitfalls. How can we select? What are the steps we can do when selecting our target market? There are certain things that we need to take into account when we are looking into a target market. As I said earlier about the Google Analytics, that gives us certain indications when we have a tangible um, number of visitors coming to our website, and this visitors numbers will change depending on the um, type of product or service. Some products, companies don't have to sell a lot of these. All they have to sell is maybe a dozen in a year, and that will justify for awful lot of marketing activity. For certain products, they have to sell in hundreds. So you need to take this into account when evaluating visitor numbers. But let's have a look at some of the factors that apply to most businesses. How many users are there in the country that uses internet? Obviously, this is an important point, because using our website is our biggest advantage, and initially that is probably that what will be limiting. And the growth rate in the country, what is the economic state is like? Are they growing? Is the economy, is the market stalling? So it is so critical that to understand the state of their economy. Are they open to new products, or do they set in their own ways? So this can be again a critical factor for you to take into account. What is their digital economy is like? Do they have fast internet? Do they easily accept uh, um, uh, taking online, giving online orders and taking online orders? And I'll show you a reference where you can actually find those informations quite easily. And this is quite obviously essential. Do you need to adapt or modify your product or service for the local to meet the local standards? Now, this can be quite critical, because if your product or service requires a lot of modification for the country you're intending to sell to, then you need to take this into account, because often modifications means cost, and also time, and so this is something quite critical. And knowing that most of the product recalls are due to simple packaging errors, this is again a pitfall that a lot of people don't take into account until it is too late. Now, as I said, there are some really good resources that you can use to find those information. Now, the easiest way is to call in consultants. Now, I'm totally in favor of using consultants, but if you're in the early stages of your global journey, getting help from consultants, maybe it is something that you're not ready financially. So until then, so there are some good resources that you can go in to check those details. Economist published this in 2010, and they evaluate about 140 countries in various criterias. And this shows you a lot of uh, uh, details. And yes, it is 2010, but in 4 years things can only get better. And again, it can give you a serious information. Now, this is the report published by World Bank, and I know that the 2015 version is being drafted. Again, they there are I think they go over about nearly 100 countries, if not more, and there are information. They rank them for their red tape, the ease of getting paid, ease of setting up a company, to various. I think there's like 10-point criteria that they are being ranked. They give rankings, and I find that incredibly useful, because if you know the country's shortcomings and advantages before you go in there, then you can be prepared for all occasions. Again, there are some incredibly good resources. This is the one published by UPS, and it gives you a lot of. This is actually to be. I mean, this slide doesn't do justice to this research, because actually this is a interactive map. You can actually scroll over the countries and get information from them, and some informations are quite critical. For instance, if you're intending to sell to Europe, the European customers apparently give the highest number of returns. So if you're that company trying to sell to European customers, then you need to take into account the cost of returns, because also it won't be just the cost. It will also to do with the time, the sending it back, packaging. So it gives you quite a good bit of information. And apparently in Canada, shoppers are happy to wait if they are likely to get free delivery or cheaper deliveries. Yes, as I said, it's actually 57%, which is quite a high number. Again, shoppers in Europe, they have different expectations, and being aware of these expectations makes everything so much uh, easier to cope with, because like we all know, the worst thing in business is the unknown factor. If we know about this, then we know that we can actually do something about that. And this is the source that you can go to, pressroom.ups.com, and you will you will have a chance to see the recordings as well as the presentation file, so that you can actually use those URL links. Oh yes, like I mentioned, as I mentioned earlier, Canadian customers not don't mind waiting for up to 10 days for cheaper deliveries. And yes, if you're intending to sell to Australian customers, there is a great opportunity, because right now they haven't got the best experience in the world. So if there's a company that can sell to Australian customers and provide a good service, then they will have customers for life. Again, it is the same URL reference from UPS. Now, determining about the online strategy is so vital. Excuse me, I'll just get a sip of water. How are we doing speed wise? Are we are we going at the right speed? Can you just mention it on the chat? I mean, are you all is the speed going
Okay, good, thanks.
as you expected, or should I slow down or go a bit faster? Okay,
That's
I'm
great,
comfortable.
thank you.
Now, determining your online strategy is is so critical, because there are so many other channels that are out there as well as your website. For instance, App Store, uh, Amazon Marketplace. eBay. eBay has got a serious um, uh, international network. Google Play, same as Apple Store, this particularly gives and tremendous opportunities to uh, app developers. In the App Store, there's nearly 700,000 apps. In the Google Play, similar amount, going up very rapidly. So these give you, if you're an app developer, there are tremendous opportunities just simply targeting uh, uh, Google Play and App Store. And I think the Windows platform is also gaining speed as well. Udemy is, again, if you're selling training, if you're a training provider, Udemy gives you an option, not option, gives you a facility to package that training and sell it as a webinar. And in Udemy you can get a training from accounting to marketing to website building to programming. They probably cover over 1,000 different subjects. So for training service providers, it's a great way to capitalize on their experience. Rakuten is, again, I mean, these are not by any means the only ones. These are the ones that I come across with and I thought worth mentioning. Rakuten is particularly important if you're targeting Japanese markets. Again, iTunes. iTunes is, I come across many multilingual products there, and uh, there's like a detox program, and people who did it in English, now they are doing it in 10 different languages. So iTunes provides incredible amount of opportunities, and all of these platforms give you a serious support for going global. Alibaba.com is by any means is something to reckon with. You may be aware that Alibaba is actually bigger than Amazon, and they operate in nearly 200 countries, and they provide a platform to sell any product or service. So it is a very serious platform. So the reason I wanted to mention those is that we do not have to limit our activities to our website, but we can also use those platforms. Yes, Amazon, eBay, they will deduct a fee, but they will also provide you a very good support, including escrow service. That means the money is in safe hands, and as long as the delivery is completed, you will get paid. There are some important facts about going global. Um, 70% of online search inquiries are in other languages. So if if your website is in English only, you're likely to get that 30% of these search inquiries. The other 70% in other languages. And also, customers prefer to buy in their own language. I mean, when was the last time you bought something from a website that wasn't in English? For me, I never did it, because even if I know the brand name, I want to know about my legal rights. I want to know about the delivery guarantees. So I need to read all this before I can actually make that purchase. And not a surprise that customers are 4 times more likely to buy from websites in their own language. Now, obviously, English is the number one business language. That goes without saying. But for the reasons that I just mentioned, the appeal to consumers, and for them to make those purchasing decisions, the content needs to be understood by them. And one way to overcome these language barriers is localizing content. And what I mean by localizing is that making sure that the message is understood, so they get the message, they get your product message, because we are passionate about our products, we are passionate about what we do. That's why we are in business, that's why you're in business. And to to get that passion in that, to them, to the customer, is the only way for them to get some connection between ourselves. And to get that, we need to overcome that language barrier. This is an incredible number. 1 billion questions asked in 146 languages. That is an amazing number. And again, this is from directly from Google. This is, like I said earlier, that about getting the message through, is that the content needs to be adapted for the target country, because what can be funny, what can be catchy for one country may not work for somebody else. So what I suggested, for instance, in the publication that I mentioned at the beginning, is that the copy is needs to be written in plain language. There's an incredible website called Plain English. I think it's plainenglish.co.uk, and that website gives very good tips about getting the message in plain English. One thing that apparently what happens is, if the message is in plain English, even the native speakers understand it a lot better. And when it comes to putting the same content in international market, it makes life so much easier. Because if the content is heavily culturally biased, or a lot of jargon is used, it is then becomes quite difficult to get the essence of the text to another language. So there are some very good tips on plainenglish.co.uk, and I do recommend that I do recommend that you have a look at it before writing any content or developing any content. Yes, I think I did mention that the content created for the target country is probably the ideal solution. Now, talking about content and talking about getting the message, now I've seen this in many other languages, that handcraft can be actually can mean, the craft and job can mean the same. But like on this unfortunate occasion, that the unfortunately, as you can see on the screen, handcraft, hand job can mean quite a bit of difference on occasions like this. And IKEA is a company that we know how big IKEA is part of our lives, but they try to sell fartful desk ranges in the United States. And fartful is very innocent, means nothing wrong in Swedish, but it doesn't sound very good in English. So, and they didn't stop there. So if you read this one, there's again, you know, taking the original product names to another country. I think the companies need to do a little bit of research before doing so, and that research
Mm.
doesn't have to cost arm and a leg. It's a simple asking questions to 5, 10 different people, and that will give you a very good idea if the name has got any negative connotations. And in cases like this, for IKEA, this is not a major disaster, and even for Fartful Desk Ranch, yes, it must have costed them some money to withdraw from the market and then repackage it. But for a small company, that could mean a lot worse than a giant
Mm.
like an IKEA. So we need to be even more careful, really, to make sure that we do all the due diligence. Now, this is something that we've been talking about it. Now, the I mean, I run a business, and I understand the difficulties of um, of taking the next step to, especially for another country. And if you have a website such as ours, we have like, I don't know, few hundred pages on our website. And if I want to uh, target another country, and somebody says to me, well, actually, you need to translate all these thousands of words before you can actually start selling, then I wouldn't be very too happy about that, because it took us years to develop our content. Um, so we come up with this idea that, well, microsites work a lot better because they serve the purpose for us to go to a country with a specific message. Because at the end of the day, websites are best if they create an interaction. If they, if there's a call to action and if it is followed by our visitors, that's really what we want the websites to do. And we notice that micro websites do this really well, because more than likely we will be targeting a flagship product for that country. So we can actually highlight that product or service in a microsite. And yes, it is a lot easier to translate a 3 page or 5 page or 9 page microsite than doing the um, whole website. And also the time factor, because if you are testing a market in another country, the preparations, we don't want the preparations to take ages, because basically we want to know whether there's an opportunity or not. And quicker we do this is better. In that sense, working on a microsite with X number of pages is a lot easier and quicker. And yes, because they are done for a purpose, I think visitors can take action a lot easier. And it's very cost effective way to reach a target market. Depending on your goal, is it testing the market? Is it establishing a customer base? Or is it sustaining a customer base? Then, depending on this, you can adjust the number of pages you need. Or if you started with 3 pages, you can add more. So you don't have to kill your original investment. You can just build on top of that. Yes, it can be developed further. Now, this is this webinar is not at all intended to be a sales pitch, but I was asked that question at the Going Global exhibition in Excel, and I thought I'd just very quickly mention that our solution consists of basically 4 packages, and those packages, just the main differentiation between those packages is the purpose, because we thought that depending on the purpose, you can do your micro website accordingly. Because if you're gonna test the market, you don't need to spend a fortune on a website that you may not use. So starting with the smallest possible is probably the best way to go. I mean, that is how it worked for me, how it worked for our company. We always looked at growing things organically, and and it's easier that way, because the unknown, yes, there is some unknown, but it is very little, and it is reversible. Well, um, I think we've done good for time wise. Um, well, before I finish, I'd like to ask: is there any questions? If you have any questions, please, um, I'll just remind that in the chat window. If there are any questions, please let me know, and I'll do my best to answer, because at the end of the day, we have had experience ourselves, as well as working with a number of companies from different sectors. I'm happy to share those experiences. So, any questions at all?
Hi,
Well,
Levin.
just one, yeah.
Hi, Levin. Jan here.
Yes, Ashton is asking any further particular size to facilitate your planning and support. Well, I mean, there are number of sites. The ones that I mentioned on the um, on the links for in-country support, the UKTI UKTI is a provides a very good support. Their website has got plenty of information. Now there's another one called HSBC country profiles. Country profiles. Now the I mean, for me, the unknown is was about the countries, and those country profiles I found them very helpful. But going back to the UKTI, UKTI has got good support, and they also have programs. Our company is doing a program right now, and it's called. I hope I'm writing remembering it right. Gateway for Global Growth. I'm pretty sure this is what it's a nice sounding name. I think our growth. Yes, our program is Gateway for Global Growth, and that's a good program. They provide you with an international trade advisor, and there is some match funding, and also there's a couple of days uh, support provided at the Cranberry University. Um, did I say Cranberry?
Hmm.
And Cranford, is it Cranford? Yeah, Cranford University, and so there is very good support, and also please do not undermine the support you will get from sites like Alibaba.com, because they they do provide tangible and valuable support, a lot of information, and also Amazon Marketplace and eBay, because they basically want you to sell your product. They have a direct interest in that, and also even if you don't use their platform, the information you can get from there is quite good. I mean, there are numerous other. Actually, there is. I have a blog post on our website. It says about 10 critical websites for international trade, and I was actually just remembered it now that I was quite impressed with those websites because they do provide a good support. Now, what I'll do is when I send you the link for for the recording, I will make sure that I include that, because there are basically for that purpose. I did this blog for that exact question, really, that those 10 websites does provide quite a bit of information. Any other questions? Well, it seems like there isn't any other questions. And oh, yes. Okay, Janet is asking, why would you start with two languages? Can you just have one to start with, especially if you're just market testing? Absolutely, Jan. Um, there's no really a fixed solution. Whatever works best for you, because um, it could be that you may spot a opportunity in an English speaking country. You know, that's even better, because then that requires the least modification. But I purposefully said English speaking country. Let's not forget that there are six versions of English. So what we call, in the UK, we call trolley, and it means something else in Canada. What we call, baggy here. They mean it means something to do with golf, playing golf. So even in English speaking countries, there are variations. And if our products are related to 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 one of these colloquial use of language, then it is quite could be quite critical. So yes, definitely you can try with go with one language. You can go with English only. So I mean, there's no fixed recipe really. But to have a short answer is yes, definitely you can start with one one language, and I would recommend that you do that anyway because it takes it's a different set of understanding, and it's better to start with one country, one language, and then build on top of that. Well, it seems there isn't any other questions, and well,
Yeah,
I mean, you have my email
are we?
address, and please, I'll be only happy to come back to you if there's anything I can help you with. So do get in touch. And my final message is keep calm and go global. And guys, we've done it. It wasn't easy, but we've done it. And I believe that so can you. And thank you very much for joining. And I hope you found it useful. And I wish you all the best in your global journey. Thank you very much and good night.
Thanks, Ed.